Her name was Sarah, a fragile young woman with dark eyes full of hope. She was only 20 years old when she met Adam, a man who seemed to her like a promise of freedom. Their love was secret, hidden in stolen hours, in whispers exchanged beneath trees and in the shadows of forgotten alleys. They built a dream together, a dream of a simple life, a small home, and children who would run barefoot under the sun. But her family was wealthy, powerful, and cold. To them, Sarah was not a daughter with feelings but an asset, a piece of their pride, something to be traded for greater influence. They dismissed her words, ignored her tears, and when the time came, they told her she would marry Fouad, a man twice her age, a traitor with deep pockets and an ego sharper than knives. Sarah begged them to stop, begged them to listen. She fell at her father's feet, cried into her mother's hands, but their faces remained stone. Her mother said, "This is for your future." Her father said, "Love will not feed you." And so her heart was crushed beneath their will. On the night of her engagement, the house was filled with people, music, and laughter that stabbed her ears like glass. She wore a shimmering dress forced upon her shoulders, her lips painted, her hair styled, but her eyes were swollen and red from crying. As she sat beside Fouad, her gaze swept the crowd, searching for Adam, her Adam, but he was nowhere. He had been warned, threatened, silenced. She felt as if she were watching her own funeral. The wedding came soon after, and Sarah was taken to Fouad's house. The mansion was large but empty of warmth. Its marble floors echoed her footsteps. Its tall walls seemed to lean over her like prison bars. Fouad treated her not as a wife but as an object. On the first night, his eyes scanned her like a man inspecting a purchase. He asked questions with suspicion, checked her phone, tore up the letters she tried to hide. He wanted to erase every trace of Adam, every piece of her past, until she belonged to him entirely. But Sarah could not forget. At night, when Fouad slept, she curled into herself on the far edge of the bed and whispered Adam's name into the darkness, praying he could somehow hear her. Weeks turned into months. Fouad grew harsher. He mocked her tears, accused her of unfaithfulness, shouted at her for things she had not done. His anger filled the halls of the mansion, and Sarah shrank smaller and smaller, like a flower deprived of light. The servants avoided her, afraid of Fouad's wrath. She was alone, locked in a cage of wealth and silence. But inside her, something was changing. At first, it was grief, then anger, then something darker, something heavy and sharp that sat in her chest day and night. She dreamed of Adam often. In her dreams, he called to her, his hand reaching out, but every time she tried to take it, Fouad appeared, dragging her back into chains. She woke with sweat dripping down her face, her heart pounding. Each morning she felt less human, more hollow, until one night her reflection in the mirror no longer looked like her. It was her face, yes, but her eyes were wild, her smile twisted, her tears frozen like blood. The storm came on a night in October. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder shook the sky. Fouad sat in the living room, lounging in his silk robe, a glass of wine in hand. He hummed a tune to himself, a smug little melody. Sarah stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling as they gripped the handle of a knife. The blade gleamed in the dim light, reflecting her pale face. Her breath was shallow, but her mind was clear for the first time in months. She walked slowly, step by step, the sound of the storm masking her approach. Her heart beat louder than the thunder. She entered the living room, stood behind him. He did not turn. She raised the knife, her voice shaking but steady enough to whisper, "They stole my life, but you will not steal my soul." Before he could react, the blade plunged into his chest. His scream tore through the room, high and desperate. He dropped the glass, red wine spilling across the floor like blood, mixing with the real blood that now gushed from his body. Sarah pulled the knife out and struck again, and again, and again. Each thrust was a release of years of pain, of nights of tears, of broken dreams. Fouad's cries weakened, his hands clawing at her arms, but she was relentless, her face splattered with his blood, her eyes burning with fury. Finally, he collapsed, his body twitching before going still, his lifeless eyes staring at nothing. Sarah dropped to her knees, the knife still clutched in her bloody hand. She was panting, her chest heaving, tears mixing with the crimson that covered her. For a moment, she felt weightless, free. The cage had shattered, the chains had fallen. But then, the silence crept in. The door opened slowly. Her family entered the room. They saw the blood, the corpse, the trembling bride. But they did not scream. They did not rush to her side. Their faces were cold, eyes hard. Her father looked at her, his voice calm but filled with contempt. "We knew you wouldn't last. Now, you are not just a burden, you are our disgrace." Sarah's mouth opened, but no words came. The knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the ground. She thought they would call the police, thought they would punish her, but instead they simply turned away, leaving her alone with the corpse. That night, Sarah vanished. Some said her family locked her away in the dark cellar of their mansion, where she screamed until her mind broke, where her hair turned white from fear, and where she became nothing but a ghost of herself. Others swore they saw her wandering the streets at night, barefoot, still wearing her blood-soaked wedding dress, the knife in her hand, whispering Adam's name over and over again as if calling him back from the dead. And Fuad's grand house? It did not stay occupied for long. People avoided it, and soon it stood abandoned. Yet those who dared to walk by claimed they heard sounds, muffled cries, the soft steps of someone pacing, the echo of a woman sobbing that never ended. A few claimed they saw her face at the upstairs window, pale, smeared with blood, staring out into the night as if waiting for someone. The story spread like wildfire, a tale told in whispers. They called her the bloody bride, cursed by love, cursed by family, cursed by fate. She was not alive, nor was she dead. She was something else entirely, something caught in between, wandering the line between love and vengeance, forever trapped in the night when she spilled her husband's blood. And so the warning remains. Never force a heart into chains, never bury love beneath greed. For love denied can turn into something far darker than hate. Love can become horror. And Sarah's shadow still walks, seeking the life she lost, seeking the freedom that slipped away, carrying her knife, her dress, and her curse, forever.